Well, after the latest hostage releases by Hamas today, Israel still lists 82 captives in Gaza. Around 45 are still believed to be alive. They include 47-year-old Omri Miran, who was kidnapped from his home in Kibbutz Nahal Oz, leaving behind his wife, Moshe Miran, and their two small daughters. Well, let's speak to his brother-in-law, Moshe Lavi. Welcome to the programme. A day of mixed emotions for you, I'm guessing, because you've seen more hostages return to their loved ones, but your brother-in-law wasn't one of them.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Mixed emotions, perhaps, but we focus today on celebrating the return of 8 hostages, 3 Israelis and 5 Thai citizens who were held in Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad dungeons for 482 days, focusing on embracing their families. And then tomorrow we'll resume our struggle to ensure that all the hostages return home, including my brother-in-law Omri. We will not stop until they'll return home, and we'll keep pressing all the stakeholders to prioritize their return and their safety as soon as possible.
You talk about putting pressure on stakeholders. Let's break that down a bit. What's your message, first of all, to your Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu?
I mean, we give our messages to the elected officials in the Knesset, our parliament, in meetings with them, including when my sister met the Prime Minister a few weeks ago. We congratulate him for signing this deal, despite the fact it's a very difficult deal. And unlike what your previous guest said, when he tried to whitewash terrorists who killed hundreds of Israelis during the past decades, this is not a deal we Israelis accept as something that we can process, really. But we have to do it because we prioritize life, we sanctify life.
And of course, Omri,
besides Prime Minister Netanyahu, we continue to encourage President Trump, his administration, to keep pressing all sides, Israel on one side, and of course Hamas through its sponsors, Qatar, Iran, Turkey, to ensure all the hostages return home.
And of course, is human lives mixed up in all of this, of course, on both sides of the divide. Donald Trump has invited Benjamin.
No, excuse me. Hostages should not be compared to convicted terrorists. That is really unacceptable.
I'm not making that comparison, but there are people, if you speak to Palestinian groups who say that people were held without charge on things that weren't actually crimes, and we know that some of that is on the list. I made the point to Mr. Barghouti that some of the people who were released today were accused of serious crimes. I did make that point. But there are others who are also reunited with their loved ones. There are Palestinians, teenagers, for example, who are finally home again.
Were involved in terrorist actions.
Well,
I'm sorry, you
in
cannot
some of the cases, unless
crime.
we go through every list, I think it's probably missing the point of this interview if we go into the details of everyone.
I'm trying to make the general point. My brother-in-law Omri was kidnapped from his home. In front of him,
I am not saying
and my 2 nieces.
I'm not trying to defend anyone's actions.
No, I'm just trying to
point out that there are people across.
I refer to your previous guest.
I get that. There are people across the divide, including millions in Gaza as well, who were displaced and forced to leave their homes.
Of course, and I have empathy for them because I think they deserve to live in a better situation. They deserve to have a better leadership. What we saw today with Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, they don't really prioritize the well-being of Gazans. And I hope as part of this deal, in the 3rd phase, we will see a vision for a better Gaza. Us Israelis will also have to make the necessary changes in our society to ensure that Gaza is able to rebuild, reconstitute, and become a safe place for both Palestinians, and of course to ensure that we don't get harmed ourselves as Israelis.
What I wanted to ask you, I think you may have misunderstood me. I was making the point that there's families who are torn apart on every side of this conflict. And it's the politicians in the end that hold the cards to this. So I wanted to ask you as a last question, please don't misunderstand my sentiment here, is what you think needs to come out of meetings, for example, the one next week that we're expecting between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I totally agree with you. Politicians are holding the key. Politicians who are elected officials on one side and terrorists and their diplomatic wing on the other side, because Hamas also has a kind of a diplomatic wing abroad. I hope that President Trump will convey to Prime Minister Netanyahu that he has the security guarantees that are needed for Israel to continue for the second phase of the deal. We cannot stop with the first phase, both for the sake of Israelis and Palestinians. We need to ensure the second phase happens so that my brother-in-law and so many other hostages held by Hamas will be released. Okay. I hope that he will convey that, and I'm certain he will. That's the sentiment we get from his administration, including today from his from Steve Witkoff, who visited Israel.
Okay, Moshe. Well, of course, we hope that you are reunited with Omri soon enough. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.